Our next guest is one of the most influential media critics in the country. He has written a number of books, columnist for The New Yorker. His new book is called Frenemies, The Epic Disruption of the Ad Business and Everything Else. Ken Auletta, welcome to Big 550 KTRS here in St. Louis.
Thanks for having me.
The name Frenemies for the book, explain that. It has to do with the relationship between the advertiser and the companies and the people. What does that mean?
It means that people who were your friends, your partners, are also now increasingly your competitors or enemies. That is to say, the New York Times or many newspapers or magazines have created internal ad agencies. So they now compete with the same people who they seek to get ad dollars from. If you're a consulting company like Deloitte that used to be your accountant, increasingly Deloitte and others, McKinsey, et cetera, are getting into the advertising business. If your clients, increasingly you're saying, let me do stuff in-house. So people who were your friends are often your competitors. Facebook and Google, for instance, they want your ads, and yet increasingly they bypass you and go directly to clients. But the biggest frenemy, the one that poses an existential threat to all of advertising, is the public. The consumer doesn't like being interrupted by ads, particularly on their cell phones. And increasingly, 20% of Americans turn to what they call ad blockers, blocking all ads on their cell phones. That is a threat to advertising. And if it threatens advertising, it threatens all media which advertising supports.
Which is what I don't understand, being part of the traditional radio old media, and we'll get to that question in a second. When you advertise online, all you're doing is creating angst every time they see your logo because you're searching for the X button. That's all you want. So why would you advertise online as an advertiser if you're just upsetting everyone you are coming in contact with?
Because you're looking to see whether you can reach consumers. And increasingly, since digital platforms have much more data and information about the user, about the consumer, they think they can better target their ads to affect the sale by going to digital, and that's why they do it. They think it's much more effective than a radio ad or a television ad, which is not digitized.
I would fight them all day long, but we only got a small time with you, Ken. I love this book. I love this book for 8 million reasons. The book is called Frenemies. Ken, let me ask you this. I go to YouTube, okay? I love YouTube. Everybody loves YouTube. They go there, and I get an ad. And the ad says, skip ad in 5 seconds. And in the 5 seconds I'm watching the ad, not once does the company who's paying for the ad or what they're selling comes up in the ad. It's a waste of time, money, and energy. Why are people doing that?
Well, that's a really good question. You know, it's interesting because Facebook has done some research which says that if you don't capture the consumer's attention in the first 2 seconds of a video ad, you failed. They will tune off. And so I would think that either you have a big idea or you introduce the name of the product somehow would be essential in those early seconds.
We've also heard that there are big companies, Procter & Gamble, have said recently, hey, you know what, we're pulling down our digital ads because it's just not working. Is there evidence that these digital ads are actually moving the needle, Ken?
Well, if you talk to Facebook and Google, they say it does. But if you talk to Procter & Gamble, they say increasingly they're worrying about wastage. They're worrying that they are spending money for Facebook ads or Google ads, and they're not reaching the people that Facebook and Google say they're reaching, or they're reaching bots, which are not real human beings.
Right.
And that's an increasing worry among the giants like Procter & Gamble and Unilever. And so they pull back some on the ads. But essentially, in the future, there is no question that data will allow advertisers to better target ads. If you're interested in people who let's say teenagers, who with a certain product that you think a hair product or something, they can actually target millions of teenagers who might have that interest. And you can't do that in general on radio or television unless it's digitized. But will it work? That's the question.
The book is called Frenemies, The Epic Disruption of the Ad Business. Ken Auletta with us for a couple more minutes. You have a chapter in the book called Can Old Media Be New? Newspapers, television, radio. Look into your crystal ball. What's the future there?
Well, you know, it's interesting because CBS, for instance, one of the characters in my book is Les Moonves, the head of CBS. And CBS, I wrote a book in '91 called Three Blind Mice, and at that time, CBS and the other networks were 100% reliant on advertising as their sole source of income. Today, only 46% of CBS's revenues come from advertising. They have managed to have alternate revenue streams. For instance, in '92, the government passed the Cable Act, which insisted that cable companies, if you carry CBS or NBC or any other network, you have to compensate them for it. Or then you had the FinCEN rules in '94 that were passed, which allowed the networks for the first time to begin to own the programs that appear on their air. So that's another source of revenue. And then Netflix and Google and Amazon come on, and they start selling their libraries to them. So CBS last year got $250 million just from selling programs to Netflix. On the other hand, what is Netflix? Netflix is a frenemy. In the short run, you're getting income from Netflix. In the long run, you're building up a competitor, a frenemy. And so you could argue in the long run it's a mistake. And not only are you building up an enemy in that way, but you're building up the notion that you don't have to wait till, as CBS says, till Thursday night at 9 o'clock to watch this show. You can watch it anytime you want on Netflix. By the way, you can watch it without commercial interruption. And by the way, you can watch as many episodes as you want. That's disruptive.
What about newspapers? What about magazines?
Well, look at what's happened to them. I mean, basically, they allowed Google search to comb their articles and offer them to people, and they were late to get in the game of a digital newspaper. And so now what do they face? They face a world where the print newspaper, which is the most expensive part of their newspaper, is dying in many cities around the country, and yet the digital, people don't spend enough time on digital for them to allow the newspaper to charge the same rate for an ad, a digital ad, as they charge for that ad in the newspaper. And so newspapers are challenged, same as magazines. Look at the latest issues of, say, Time magazine, how thin it is.
But look at like Drudge, that doesn't really create any news. They just steal everybody else's news. Huffington Post, right? They just have links to other news stories for the most part. The newspapers are the ones generating the news. They should be the ones charging the most and or putting up paywalls.
And increasingly that's happened. But the question is, has it happened too late? Newspapers are basically saying, hey, wait a second, we've been giving away our product, our information, our vital information. It is vital in democracy, for free. So we have to reclaim it. And so increasingly you hear newspapers challenging Facebook and Google and saying, you have to start compensating us for this stuff. Or as you said, they put up paywalls and they charge for digital access to their publications. And that's great. The question is it too late?
Is there hope, Ken, in the future, or are we all doomed?
Well, no, I don't think we're all doomed. I mean, of course there's hope, but it just means that change means that some people will die and some people will thrive. And we don't always know which of those people who will be which, but nevertheless, there's no question we're living through a period of tremendous change and therefore tremendous insecurity, which helps an author like me because I'm writing about an industry on the edge of its seat, full of anxiety and worried about the future. And yet, on the other hand, the people who are smart, they lean forward and they throw stuff against the wall and they see, let's see what sticks. And the people who are not smart look upon the digital revolution as a problem, not an opportunity.
I know I'm biased, and I sit in a radio chair. I think it's going to boomerang back to radio. Podcasting is exploding, but the spoken word in radio might have a resurgence if we figure out how to do it right. So,
I hope you're right.
Yeah. Ken Auletta, the book is called Frenemies, The Epic Disruption of the Ad Business and Everything Else. Ken, thanks for checking in.